held on the 2nd of October 2025. I can see that we have present Councillor Matthew Buchanan, Councillor Dewar. Do we have Councillor Equi? No. We have present Councillor Ferguson. Do we have Councillor Gowland? No. Do we have Councillor Keat? No. We also have present Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Mars and Councillor Nugent. There are also a number of officers present today. I'll hand back to yourself, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So looking at item number 1, which is the declarations of interest. I don't think we've got any. No, moving on to item number 2, and that's the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 10. And if we get those minutes agreed, please. As an accurate record.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mars. Moving on to item number 3A, and that's the Capital Budget Monitoring 2024 to 2025, the General Fund Capital Programme, pages 11 to 32. And if we could hand over to Lorraine O'Hagan, please.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So item 3A then is the Capital Budget Monitoring Report for 25-26 for the General Fund Capital Programme, and it covers the period to the 8th of August. So in terms of the position as at that point in time, you can see in section 4.1 on page 11 that we have a revised capital programme for the year of £69.932 million. That includes adjustments to the programme, a total net increase of £1.398 million, as was approved at Executive Committee on the 24th of September. One of the more sizable movements in the programme is in relation to transfers to revenue, and we're noting that in section 4 of your report, section 4.2 of your report, and that reflects the fact that we have transferred capital budget to our revenue spend programme, and that's purely an accounting transaction. We take the spend and we'll take the funding with it, and it reflects the kind of spend that we'll be incurring through that budget. You'll see the opposite effect of that in the revenue report later on. In terms of the spend to the forecast spend for the year as at the 8th of August, we are looking at a full spend, 69.932 million of budget and 69.884. So slightly out, but not too much at all at this point in the year. In terms of actual spend to the 8th of August, we've incurred spend of just over £8 million, and that's noted in section 4.7. Actual funding received to the 8th of August is 10.824 million. In terms of the appendices to your report, the adjustments I mentioned earlier are included in Appendix A, which start on page 14. On the first page, we have additional funding coming into community and enterprise resources for particular projects, and that includes a bus infrastructure fund and a programme of works aligned to that. We have a road safety improvement fund where the individual projects are noted partway down the page. And we're bringing in £737,000 of spend there, but we're slipping 187 of that into the new financial year just to reflect the profiling of those works. At the bottom of that page, we've got Cycling Scotland Grant Award for new cycling, storage and shelter repairs at schools. And again, we're bringing that in with a little bit of it falling into next financial year. And over the page, at the top of page 15, we have some movements in the Leisure and Culture Transformation Fund, just for transparency. So there's no impact on the overall level of spend, but we're really looking to identify to members slight changes in the programme of works at both Shatler Road Country Park and the Hamilton Water Palace. The final adjustment is partway down page 15, and that is in relation to Calderside Academy improvement works, where we have monies from developer contributions, and the resource are looking to use them to demolish the derelict building, create room for future building expansion, improve ICT, and also a dedicated ASN garden and practical workshops at the school. Appendix B of your report then, which is on page 16, just details how those movements appear across the individual resources. And then in Appendix C, you can see the full programme there across the individual resources and the services, detailing the full programme, the forecast for the year, and the actual spend to the 8th of August. Page 18 of your report is Appendix D, and that looks at the elements of funding that make up your total funding package for our current year budget. And as I mentioned earlier, we have funding to date of 10.824 million. Thanks, Chair. That takes us on to the physical progress. And if Amy can pick that up, please.
Thanks, Chair. So to report this period in terms of, there's 3 projects that are currently behind programme. The first being St John the Baptist Nursery Canopy. Reason for the explanation for the delay is project is behind programme due to a delay in the contractor's lead-in times. And this is now programmed for the October school week, which has been approved by Education. The second project, which is behind programme, is the headquarters west wing doors. There's been a slight delay in the contract award, but this has now been rectified, and that will be resolved for next report. And the final project behind programme is the Priory Changing Pavilion in Blantyre, and there's been some issues experienced in terms of Scottish Water and SEPA works that are now required to be carried out, and this is now getting designed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lorena. Thank you, Amy. Do you have any questions? No. Okay, can we agree the report? Thank you. And if we move on now to item 3B, and that's the Capital Budget Monitoring 2025-26 Housing Capital Programme, pages 33 to 30. Oh, sorry. Yeah, 33 to 38. I'll hand back to Lorraine again, please.
Thanks, Chair. So the Housing Capital Programme then, as you say, starts on page 33. In section 4.1, you can see the revised programme for the year is 87.7 million. That was as per the last Executive Committee report. And the funding for the year also totals £87.7 million. In terms of the forecast for the year, we're currently forecasting a full outturn at that 87.7 level. And in terms of actual spend to the 8th of August, section 4.4 notes we have spend of 19.032 million, and we have funding of the same amount, so we're balancing at that point in time. Appendix A to your report on page 35 picks up the spend at the top, but it also shows you the funding package that makes up the £87.7 million worth of funding for the programme. And again, it shows you the 19.032 of expenditure and funding at that point in time. If I can hand over to Amy now for the build element, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So for the update on the build element, there is currently no projects behind programme this period. Thank you.
Super, thank you. Thanks, Amy. And do you have any questions? No. Okay, thank you. And if we can agree the report, please. Thank you, Councillor Mars. Moving on to item number 4, and that's the Revenue Budget Monitoring 25 to 26, and that's pages 39 to 44. And back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. So in section 4 of your report then, we can see the position on the general fund spend for the current financial year as at the 8th of August. So the projected outturn position for the year is a break-even, and you can see that in Appendix 1. We'll pick that up in a second. Sections 4.3 onwards provide a little bit of detail on a number of key budget areas for members' information. So the first area there in section 4.3 is reduced class contact time. And this is really just to highlight the ongoing discussions in relation to reducing class contact time and the fact that from a council perspective, we don't have any additional funding to manage that. And if this does go ahead, we were looking to see what the Scottish Government can do to fund the cost of RCCT, because if there is no funding coming with that, then that could add to the council's budget gap. So that's really just for members' information. That's where we are at this point in time. In terms of additional support for learning, members will be aware that we were allocated 1.834 million of additional funding from the Scottish Government in our budget for this current year. And as we'd reported last time, Education Resources have been looking to see the best way to spend that money across their service areas. So the detail of that is included in section 4.4 for your information. And we're also noting at the end of that paragraph, the Education Resources Committee will be provided with a bit more detail on that, including the proposals on the additional funds required to carry out that additional work. In terms of section 4.5, we're just picking up there on the pay award and the situation as to where we're at there. So we have got agreement on the pay award for non-teaching staff, but we still don't have any information in terms of the teachers' pay award. So we'll update members as further information becomes available on the teaching side. And finally, as I had mentioned in the capital report, this is the other side of the transfer from capital into revenue, including monies for private housing scheme of assistance and planned maintenance. And as I said earlier, that's just an accounting transaction only, and it's looking at making sure the spend is incurred in the correct place. The final section of that report in section 5 there is the housing revenue account position, and that's really noting that the housing position is break-even forecast for the year as at this point in time. If I can take you to the appendices, so Appendix 1 is the overall council position for the general fund, showing a break-even position forecast for the year and showing a position in terms of the actual year to date, which is a net surplus, but that's a timing issue only, and that's your 40.802 million noted in the right-hand column. Your housing revenue account then is shown on Appendix 2, which is page 43 of your papers. In terms of the forecast position, again, we're showing a break-even in the greyed out section. And on the right-hand side, you have a year-to-date actual of 6.391 million. And again, that's just a timing issue. And that's me for that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lorraine. And do we have any questions? Nope. Okay. If we can now move on. Oh, can we agree the report? Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Moving on to item number 5. And that's the revenue budget monitoring 25 to 26, the detailed resource analysis, pages 45 to 90. And I'll hand it over to Graham Booth, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, as normal, I'll just go through the detailed analysis for each of the individual resources and the housing revenue account, and say happy to take any questions in between for each of the resources. So firstly on page 47 is the community and enterprise summary, and we're noting there a projected outturn as a break-even overall with some variances across the service in terms of underspends within facilities, waste and grounds, planning and environmental, offsetting an overspend within our roads, transportation and fleet. And again, for information there, the year-to-date actual is on the right-hand side there. From page 48 to 53, we have the detailed variance explanations, and anything new is underlined as normal from previously. And in pages 54 to 57 is the trend analysis. So happy to take any questions in relation to community and enterprise resources. Thank you.
I've got no questions, but does anybody else have? No, if we can move on to the next part, please, Graham.
Thank you. The next resource is education on page 59, and again showing a projected outturn of break-even and year-to-date actual of 165 million. On pages 60 to 62, again we have the detailed variance explanations. There's nothing new from last time to report. And in pages 63 to 65, we have the trend analysis over the periods. And again, happy to take any questions in relation to education resources.
Thanks, Graham. I've got nothing from me. Does anybody else have any questions? No. If we can move on to the next part, please, Graham.
Finance and corporate resources is next on page 67. And again, you'll see from that, just in the grey box, there is some variances up and down across the services, but overall we're projecting a break-even position for the resource. And on pages 68 to 69, we have the detailed variance explanations. Again, just one to highlight there in terms of new from last time. And the trend analysis is on page 70 to 72. Again, happy to take any questions for finance and corporate resources.
Thank you. Nothing from me. Just if there's any questions. Nope. Okay, we can move on to the next one.
Housing and Technical General Services next. The summary on page 73. Again, overall break-even for the resource with an underspending property offsetting the slight minor overspend in housing services. And that's on page 73. And on pages 74 to 75, again, we have the detailed variance explanations with anything new underlined from last time, which there is a few. And page 76 to 78 has the trend analysis. The next thing linked to that is the HRA position on page 79, detailing the variance explanations. Again, just they are all new from last time, and again the trend analysis is on page 80 to 81. So again, happy to take any questions in relation to either the Housing and Technical General Services or the HRA, Chair.
Yeah, nothing from me. Has anybody got any questions? No. And I think it's the last one now, is it, Grim?
Yep, Chair, thank you. Lastly, social work on page 83. Again, showing an overall break-even position for the resource, and within that we have a break-even position for the adults and older people service, which is delegated IGB, and some variances, as I say, across the other services, but all coming again back to a break-even position. On page 84 to 87, we have the detailed variance explanations with all the new explanations from last time underlined. And in pages 88 to 90, we have the detailed trend analysis for the last couple of periods. So again, happy to take any questions in relation to social work.
Thank you. Nothing from me. Is there any questions from anybody else?
Chair,
You've
we
got-
have Councillor Lockhart wishing to speak.
Councillor Lockhart.
Is actually referred to the last point. I was just interested to see, if you like, why the surveillance costs were so much higher. Is that a whole lot of new requirements that suddenly cropped up, or is it just not budgeting, or is it costs of equipment, or what?
Could I just double check, sorry, Councillor, what page that's on? Is that in relation to social work? Is that a particular one of the various
Yeah, hang on,
explanations?
I've got to go back now. Where are
Oh.
we? It was in the list of overspends. 67,000 odd, I noticed. I can't remember the number. Here we go. Page 74. Variance relates to the greater expenditure on CCTV security costs than is currently budgeted. It's under property costs.
Yes, I see that now.
Page 74.
Yeah, can see that now. Yeah, I don't have the information and specifically what that relates to in terms of the surveillance, but we can certainly find if there's a specific reason for, as we say, maybe the some of the properties just now that just to have the enhanced security around them. So I can check that out for you just to see if there's anything in particular that's causing that variance.
Okay, just interested.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you. Is that satisfactory, Councillor Lockhart? And if we could just agree the whole report, please.
Chair.
Thank you very much, Julia. That takes us to item number 6, which we've not had any urgent business. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's meeting and formally close the meeting. Thank you very much.